I decided to bring the old Philco 630B to work with me today and just kind of play it and listen to it. And I do that every so often. Last time I think it was the Helicopter's SX99. I just love this old radio. Still got the dings and the dents and all the little character marks, witness marks, someone once told me. I really get into that. You know, I could have put a new piece of veneer on and cut it all out, and I don't know, it just wouldn't have been the same to me. You know, I like that look. I like this poor old baby's been around a lot. You know, I'm sitting here looking at my video manager section of YouTube. And the last video I put up where I said I was going to go ahead and discontinue the step-by-step and just go to the end and show everybody the completed television, that thing generated 51 comments. And I'm wondering to myself, you know, there it is right there, 51 comments. And I'm wondering, where have all these folks been up until now? You know, I've never had a video that generated 51 comments. It's always been maybe 7, maybe 8, maybe 10. And I wish you'd all come in a lot sooner and let me know you were out there. You know, based on the view count that I was getting, you know, I don't know who's coming in to look at the video. It could be just a bunch of surfers. You know, millions of people look at YouTube videos every day. And when you see 270, 280, that's not very many when you consider a couple of million a day are surfing everywhere, looking at this video, that video. You know, they pop in, they pop out, they fly in, they fly out. And so I don't know if these folks are interested in any of the stuff I've been doing at all. So I'm really glad to see that this thing generated 51 comments. That's good. That shows me that there is, in fact, interest in the step-by-step repair and restoration procedure of the TV. Let others know the same thing. If you go to a YouTube video where a fella is showing you how to do something that's in the area of your interest, let him know. Let her know. Comment. You know, give them the support they need. Give them the information they need to work with. You know, even with, say, 270, now right now we've got 363 views up there. And the views, the view count, and the subscriber count never bothered me. I don't care either way. I can have 5 subscribers and 5 comments as long as I know that the persons are genuinely interested in knowing how to do these things and telling me perhaps maybe even some things they don't know. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and continue based on what I've seen here. We'll go ahead and continue the step-by-step procedure right to the end. Also, I want everyone to understand that I did it. You know, my decision to do that upset my mentor, Brendan. I have to tell you, he was not happy with that, and he let me know. So I went to another mentor that I have. Yes, I have more than one mentor, and I explained to him the situation, and he recommended that I should probably. He didn't tell me one way or the other, actually, but you know, the bent of his response was, you know, yeah, you just kind of suck it up and go with it. You know, obviously there are a lot of people out there who would like to see this thing continue. So that's what we're going to do. I'm very happy to see 51 people respond to that last video. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I've gone astray. Please answer me, my love.
We're going to start today by installing some parts. We're going to put some stuff back on this chassis, and we're going to start with the old choke. Now this is the old choke right here, and this is its replacement, a nice new choke made by Hammond Manufacturing Company. Now what I want to do is show you how I determined that this choke would take the place of this choke, which is something I always wondered. You know, when I first started watching YouTube videos and various other postings on the internet about repairing radios and things, they, the restorers would say, well, I got a brand new this or a brand new that, but they never said how did they determine that this part would take the place of that part, whatever it may be. Well, when I went to the parts list for this radio, I found out, I found this choke on the parts list, of course, and it gave some, specifications on it. It said that it was a 800 millihenry choke. It could handle 290 milliamps. The resistance was 37 ohms, and it could handle up to 200 volts. Okay, that's all I needed to know. It was on the parts list. It told me that. So I went to Radio Days. I always like to go to Radio Days for the overwhelming majority of my parts. RadioDays.com. And I came down here on the left and it said chokes. Well, remember now, this is a DC filter choke. It will stop AC, but DC sees it as a short, actually, just a straight through wire. It's designed to take out ripple on top of the pulsating DC that comes out of the power supply. You don't want a bunch of ripple getting into the chassis components and the tubes and everything. You wouldn't have any nice smooth audio. So anyway, come over here, and I went to let me see. I went to where it said chokes. All right, let's click on chokes and see what we get. Now that takes me up to the next page, and it says there's various kinds. There's RF chokes, high current chokes, heavy duty hash chokes. Don't ask me what half this is. I don't even know. But right here it says DC filter chokes, 153 to 159 series, and that's what I want. I want a DC filter choke. So we'll click on it, and it gave me a whole list of DC filter chokes right here. Let's get a little closer here with this camera. And all I did was start from the top. I knew that these were, again, manufactured by Hammond out of Canada, I believe is where Hammond comes from. And I started going down, and I needed something that was close to 800 millihenries. Chokes are measured in henries. I needed something close to 800 millihenries, so that was my starting point. So I came down, down, down. I kept looking here, I'm coming down, I'm seeing 15, 150, 9, 5, 3, 30, 10. Yeah, I'm still looking for 800. Down, 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 down. And still nothing until I get to right here. There is a choke that's 1 Henry. 1 Henry is just a little bit beyond 800 millihenries. That'll work. That'll work. Let's see what the rest of it says. It says it's rated at 300 milliamps. Well, ours is rated at 290 milliamps. Still looking good. Now we take a look at the next column. It says the resistance is 40 ohms. Well, our resistance is 37 ohms. Well, we're still looking real good. Let's take a look at that last column. It's rated at 400 volts. Now this is the 158T. It's rated at 400 volts. It can handle that much. This one is rated at 200 volts. So this one, it can handle twice the voltage without burning up. Guess what? We have just found our replacement choke. And this is it. The 158T. Price cheaper than I thought. I think it was like $24 or something like that. So this one here has done its duty all these years. It's gone. We will now install this one in these two holes right here. It's now on the chassis, and the best part about this is the holes lined up exactly with the old holes. I didn't have to drill anything. Perfect fit. I'll tell you what, we got lucky on that. Now, as I told you way back when, the filter choke is just a wire goes in, goes through a bunch of coils, and then it comes out the other side. A wire in, a wire out. And these are the transformer wires coming from the transformer, these three. One of them's a ground, the other one hooks to the rectifier diodes, and the other one, the third one, hooks to the electrolytic capacitors. So the next thing to install is this little booger right here. We're going to go ahead and turn it upside down. And we're going to go ahead and install it on there just like that. And then we're going to hook up the transformer wires and the choke wire to one side. And then we'll run this other choke wire down through the chassis, down through that hole right there, and hook it up underneath. We're getting ready to hook up one side of that choke to the wire. You know, this is the wire that came down through the bottom of the chassis right here on one side of that choke. And it went all the way across, and it runs around and runs around. It connects over here to the 100 microfarad capacitor connection on that large filter can up on top. Well, the problem is the new wire, the black one, isn't long enough to reach. So what I'm going to have to do is do a splice, of course. I'll have to cut this one and cut this one somewhere. And I think what I'm going to do, you know, you want to try to follow the same routing of the wires anytime you, whether you're working on a radio or whether you're working on a TV or whatever it is that has, you know, wiring in the bottom, you should try to conform to the original routing of the wire as much as possible. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull this wiring up out of here, and this old wire here, I'm going to cut it, then I'm going to cut the black wire and splice it, and then stick it right back down in there, running in the same way it was originally. Again, this old wiring, I've gone ahead and cut it and stripped off about, a little more than 1/4 of an inch, I think, on the end there. Again, you know, it's going to be very hard to solder, so I took the old alcohol brush and the alcohol and gave it a good scrubbing on the end. Hopefully that'll just be enough. Now I'll cut the black wire and strip it. Both wires are now tinned, and I took a piece of red heat shrink right here and I slid it up the wire out of the way of the heat gun. Out of the way of the soldering gun, the heat from the soldering gun. So we'll slip that up out of the way, and after we splice these two together, the white one and the black one here, and we solder them together, then we'll go ahead and pull that heat shrink down, shrink it, and then move this white wire back into place. I pulled it up out of there. It'll have to be moved back into place. Notice how these wires are all real close to the chassis. There's a reason for that. You know, we covered that in a video quite a while ago. It removes a lot of you know, RF interference, all sorts of things. It just lets the chassis suck it up. Kind of neat. The soldering is done, so now we'll go ahead and give this thing a good cleaning with alcohol, get that old flux out of there. I tried to solder the two wires straight, you know, straight. You don't want them to be bent when you solder them or kinked in any way. That way, when you bring down your heat shrink, you can shrink it in a straight line. It makes for a better shrinkage. And they're just about to get it here. Go ahead and shrink that baby right up good. I don't want any contact or anything. You know, even after you've put some heat shrink on something, get this heat gun out of the way here. Even after you put some heat shrink on something like that, there's no reason you can't take something like the liquid tape and put over the top of it. Okay, now that we've got that all done, let's see if she's cooled. Okay, now we'll shove this back down in here like this, close to the chassis, and get a hold of the original wire up in here, kind of pull that through back where it was, and as far as I'm concerned, that thing's in a good position now, right where it was originally. So there we go. 1/2 the choke is connected. The other lead or wire coming out of the choke, according to the schematic right here, it'll be this side of the choke. Let me see if I can get this light a little closer. That side of the choke right there. Here is where we connected it to the 100 microfarad capacitor, positive end right here. The other side comes across and connects to the cathode of M1, that diode right there, the cathode. Well, the cathode, this is M1 right here. The cathode is this end right here, and that's where the original wire is hooked. But we're going to go ahead and remove that original wire. I've taken this wire from the choke, I wrapped it around the back of these two cans and brought it up, and I'm fixing to tin it right now, and then we'll go ahead, after we remove this one, then we'll go ahead and solder that one up just like that. Well, that's it. The choke is now in the circuit, soldered up, and we're going to have to cut this video off now. It's getting a little long. Next time we'll hook up these three wires from the transformer. This one here and this one here is the secondary right here, and this brown wire here is the one that is the ground for all the filaments and the two light bulbs, and that's right here on the schematic, and we'll have to ground that right there. Now, I don't think I'll use the ground here or here for those filaments. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and put it back where it was originally grounded. That's a really good substantial ground right there. I like that. And you know, the best thing about all this business here is, let's say that the ground doesn't do a very good job with these two screws. Once I replace them and put lock washers in and everything, you know, you can always run a wire from here to that ground, and then run it down and connect it to this ground or this one right here, and that'll do the same thing. So you have the option of using a secondary ground if need be. Okay, that's it for now. I appreciate, again, everybody posting comments to the website. I won't be able to answer them all, of course. I don't have time to answer 51 of them, or however many eventually pop up. I'll do my best to answer as many as possible, but we're going to press on with this project, and most of my time will be consumed by it. And until next time, this is John.